Okay, once you pull your calculators out, because I'm going to show you how to graph some of these quadratics that you saw in section 3.1, how to graph them on your calculator so you can maybe check your work that you're doing or validate the results that you get by hand. You can check them on your calculator. But there's some features here that are really important that I want you to get some practice with. So pull your calculator out, and we're going to first look at f of x equal negative x squared plus 4x plus 1. Actually, it's one from the note sheet that we did by hand. I want us to see how the results look when we're doing it on our calculator. So let's pull out the calculator. Let's go to y equals, and why don't you type in that equation, the negative x squared plus 4x plus 1. Now here is a really important tip, and it's going to cause a problem if you don't catch it right now. And that is, how do you type in a negative? You do not use this subtraction. If I need to make something negative up front, like I have right here, this little guy right there, that's a negative, not a subtraction. So if I need to make something negative on my calculator, I have to use this key right here. So it's this little minus that's going to give me something negative. If I need to use a subtraction, then as you can see on the two functions that I have in here, the fat minus sign comes from the subtraction key. The small negative sign comes from this negative sign key here at the bottom. Very important to use the right one. So if you have to have something negative, again, use that key there. The larger subtraction, the larger symbol comes from the subtraction. So type in negative x squared plus 4x plus 1. We'll do this one in a minute. I just wanted to already have them in there. And not sure where your calculator was last time, so I suggest before you graph anything, hit zoom, type in 6 to get everything in a standard viewing window so you can get your picture, get your graph. So there's the picture of this quadratic. I knew it was going to be a parabola. How did I know it was going to open down? Because it had a negative in front. When your parabola opens down, remember we talked about this in 3.1, you have a vertex, and your vertex is going to be a max or a min for this case. When it's opening downward, that vertex is a max. So we're going to find out how to find the vertex, x-intercepts, and y-intercepts on our calculator. So let's take a look. Once you have it graphed in your Zoom 6 window, let's find the y-intercept. That's usually the quickest and easiest point to find, and you'll usually be able to find it by hitting, right after you graph it, hit the trace feature. And the trace feature should automatically put you on that y-intercept, and notice it does, 0, 1. So let's come over here and let's get that point graphed. So we're going to do the y-intercept, and once we've graphed it in Zoom 6, let me make a little note here. We'll graph it in Zoom 6. We're going to hit the trace feature, and the trace feature automatically puts us on the y-intercept at 0, 1. So we'll say there's our 0, 1 y-intercept. Now let's go back to the picture. We've got our y-intercept. We want to find both x-intercepts here and here, and this maximum value, this vertex for our quadratic. Let's work on the vertex next. Here is how we'll find the vertex. We'll press the second feature, then we'll find CALC, the calc feature, and under the calc feature we're going to choose either maximum or minimum depending upon that vertex, and in this case, since it's opening down, we'll choose the maximum feature. Let's look at that on the calculator. I want to find this vertex, so I'm going to use the CALC menu that's in blue. So I'll press second and calc, and under there I've got lots of features I can use. I'll either have to choose the min or the max, and since this vertex is a maximum, since my quadratic is opening down, That's the one I'm going to choose. And when you choose the min or the max feature, it's going to ask you for a left bound, right bound. What it's asking you for is a point to the left of that maximum, and then you give it a point to the right of that maximum. It tells the calculator where to look. So for this maximum, let me just show you. Let's say let's say that's our vertex. Now this isn't it exactly. These numbers here at the bottom are not accurate. That doesn't tell me what my max is. But let's say, okay, it's in this area and it's asking me for a left bound, so I use my left arrow and get my cursor to the left side of that max. And once I know I'm to the left side of that max, I'm going to press enter. Once you give it a left side, it's going to ask for a right hand side. So I'm going to use my right key, pass it up, and be on the right hand side of that vertex, that high point. I want to go on the right side. So right bound, you pass it up and press enter. And it'll always ask you if you want to guess, but no, we're just going to press enter and let it tell it to us exactly. Notice it's blinking right at the maximum value, and it's telling me the maximum value is 2.00001, comma 5. We've got to be careful how we read our calculator. It does make some round off errors, and when you see a string of zeros and a 1, that's the calculator's way of saying, okay, I have too many decimals. This should really be just the number 2. Some of you may have gotten a 1.9999999. That's the calculator's way of saying the number 2. So be careful. Make sure you can interpret the value that it's given to you. So my maximum point, my vertex, is 2, 5. So I'm going to mark that over here. Right there. I'll mark it in a different color. There we go. 2, 5 for the vertex. Well, I'm almost there. I almost have all the information. I now need my x-intercepts, which I saw on the graph. So let's work on the x-intercept. We're going to use the second calc feature again. And under that feature, we're going to arrow down and choose the 0 option. That's the option we'll use to find our x-intercepts. Now I'll show you how to use it. It works like the max feature. So there it is. It's still blinking on our maximum. We now want to find the x and y intercepts. I'm going to give you a few ways to go about it. Here's one way. You can investigate your table. Here's this blue feature, this table feature. If I go to second and graph, it gives me the table of values, basically ordered pairs for that equation. Now I can go up and down this list. I can go backwards and see what happens to the left. I can go down, see what happens to the right. But you will notice right there you get your y-intercept, 0, 1. So that ordered pair is from my list of values on my table. Now x-intercepts are values where 0 is in the y position. Let's investigate this table and see if we see any spots where there's a 0 in the y position. Well, I don't see anything there. That tells me that they're not nice exact values, that there's going to be some decimals involved, and we need to find them exactly using this feature, which is going to be under calc, which is 0. But I just wanted to mention that table is a nice place to go to and investigate some ordered pairs. We can't find them. We should be able to on the next one, but not on this one. So let's go to second calc and choose the second feature, the 0 feature. That's going to allow us to find our x-intercepts exactly. Now I need to get my cursor blinking around my x-intercept, so there we go. That's close. Now that's not it exactly. Do not take that as your x-intercept. That's deceiving. What we want to do is say, okay, that's the this is the x-intercept I'm trying to find. I need to move my cursor and give the calculator an idea of the left-hand side of that point. So what I do is I have to go to the left and make my cursor blink on the left-hand side of that point. So use the left arrow. Now it's blinking to the left-hand side of my intercept. Press enter. Now it's going to ask you to place your cursor on the right-hand side of that intercept. So all that means is you use the right arrow and pass it up. So now I've passed it up going right, and I'm going to press enter. And whenever it says guess, you press enter one more time. Notice a 0 in the Y position. That is your exact x-intercept. If you look back at your note sheet for section 3.1, that's the number we found. That's one of the x-intercepts, negative 0.236. So over here on my graph, I have a y-intercept, an x-intercept of negative whatever that value was, 0.236. Yeah, I mean, we'll just estimate where that is, but that x-intercept is negative 0.236. So that's one of them. But there's going to be another x-intercept over here. Let's find out what it is using the calculator and choosing again the second calc feature. And under that we'll choose the 0 feature. I found this one. I need to get over here. I'm having to use the feature a second time to calculate the second x-intercept. So I've not done anything other than get my cursor close to that x-intercept. That is not the exact value. There's not a 0 in the Y position. But getting it close to that value allows me to use the left arrow to give it a left bound. Press enter. Use my right arrow to pass it up and give it a right bound. And press enter. And when it says guess, press enter again. And we see it zeroes in, hence the name 0. It zeroes in on that x-intercept. I'm so glad this came up on my calculator because you need to know this. When your calculator gives you a value like this, it's its way of saying 0. Be careful with that. It's scientific notation and saying that your decimal place is 12 to the left, which is a really, really small number. So because of the truncation and rounding error, it'll sometimes give you 0 listed in this format. But there's the x-intercept, 4.236. So this one is at 4.236. And that one was at negative 0.236. And if you go back on your note sheet in 3.1, those are the values we found by hand. This is just a way of validating your work or checking your work on the calculator. 1, 2, 3, 4. To check your work that you do by hand, check it on your calculator.